Are live. You are watching another episode of the Detective Diaries. I am your host, Greg Lawson. This is where I interview people I find strange and interesting along my paranormal journey. And believe it or not, we have a sponsor now. So if you have an annuity or a structured settlement and need cash now, contact Folsom Financial. Eric Folsom will take care of you and he'll take care of your financial needs. It's your cash. Get it now. Contact Folsom Financial. All right. So last time when we were interviewing some folks, we talked to Beth Darlington. She is a paranormal explorer, researcher, investigator, and educator. She's got a big passion of educating people in the paranormal. So her and I kind of see eye to eye on the education side of it. Today, we're going to be talking with Sean Freddie. Sean Freddie's a personal friend of mine. We worked together many, many years, and I think we just need to bring him in here and say hello. Say hello, Sean.
Hello, folks.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for doing this. I know this is kind of last minute. I planned on bringing you on in a couple of weeks, and I thought, you know what? I was dark last week, and let's bring Sean on to brighten our day.
Yeah, it's a good thing I'm retired, so it's like I work in the shop and I play video games.
That's a good thing. Yeah, that's a good thing. We've known each other for how many years?
15 at least?
Probably, yeah. So Sean and I worked together in law enforcement, and we were detectives at the same time together, and got to do some cool stuff. And we did SWAT school together, and yeah, just a whole bunch of other stuff. And I was looking online, and I was like, hey, you see Sean, and as you can see in the background, he has a collection of science fiction. Can we say, or is that real?
It's mostly Star Wars stuff with a little Marvel and Firefly thrown in.
So real stuff.
Oh,
And,
yep.
Where was that?
That was at a Comic-Con.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I was contrasting this photo with this photo.
That was a great school, hostage rescue school.
Yeah. And so it's real funny because, you never can tell. You never can tell what kind of training somebody might have or what they might have done in their past life.
I've got two kids, so and they're older and out on their own. And there was at one time when my son was in his late teens, and we were tooling around, and he said something. I was like, "Dad, you're a little bit of a nerd." I'm like, yeah, I'm good with that, but I'm also the nerd that can choke you out and stuff you in the trunk of your own car.
It helps, right? It helps. Speaking of getting stuffed in your own car, what are you drinking?
Well, this is actually it's Devil's Backbone. It's from I'd say like a local brewer, Real Ale Brewing. It's in Blanco. I'm in Austin, so it's about 150 miles from here. Gotcha. But it's a Belgian style triple, which I'm very partial to Belgian ales, and it's really good.
I like Belgian ales. For those of you who are tuning in, if you could go down and like and share this broadcast, you would not believe how much that helps me as far as getting the word out there and getting people to come over to my YouTube channel, the Paranormal Detective Greg Lawson YouTube channel. Also, if you can put in the comments where you're listening from, that'll help me out. Also, we kind of have an unofficial who's the furthest person away from Texas listening. So man, that's you and I have had a bunch of really cool conversations. Hey, look at this. I got a fresh coffee because I have to go to work tonight in 2 hours.
Yeah, I can day drink.
It sucks to be me. So anyway, we started a podcast, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
Something like that. And
Epic Tales podcast. And you can find it epictalespodcast.com, I believe it's on. And so we did a few podcasts, and then we have some production issues that we're working through. But the whole thing around the Epic Tales podcast was, we were talking about myths and legends and how it affects society and culture.
Yeah, pop culture, long-term culture, just our ideas of why things are named the way they are.
Yeah.
Just the insidious influence that mythology and religion has.
So many people don't realize, where we get our words from. And a lot of this stuff comes from myth. It's just, it's fascinating to me. And so anyway, we talked earlier, and we talked about how myth and legend drives people to pilgrimages, right? I mean, pretty much.
Well, I mean, outside of like religious pilgrimage, obviously, but like travel, a lot of my traveling, it's myth and stories and legends, but also historical stuff. Which there's things that I guess like are historical, but have like crossed over into legendary status, like the Battle of Thermopylae. Like that is on my to-do list. Go to Greece, just to go to the hot gates, just to say I was there.
Yeah.
But it's all the adventures and misadventures you have along the way of getting from A to B, and all the fun that you can have.
So many people go, and let's say they take a tour of Ireland, and they go see Charlie Chaplin's statue, and they go see the tree of Ireland, and then they go see the flowers of Ireland, and they learn about their politics and their politicians and a little bit of history. And man, like you said, when I go someplace, I want the weirdness. I want the reality of what the myth is, right?
Yes. And then getting off the beaten path. And I don't mind doing touristy stuff. Like the last trip we did last year, I did some touristy stuff. Like I was with the group, and we were in Ireland, and we went to the Cliffs of Moher, which that was packed. A lot of people there. Oh, that's actually Ireland. I mean, Scotland. That's Loch Ness.
Oh, never mind then. We'll get to that.
We'll get back to that. But at the Cliffs of Moher, but you're there. I mean, they're historic, but also, as you can see behind me, the nerd in me, I'm like, oh, for the film The Princess Bride, those were the Cliffs of Insanity. It's like, of course I have to go to the Cliffs of Insanity.
Of course. That's one of the best movies ever, by the way, for those of you who have never watched The Princess Bride. Shame on you. You need to watch it probably today. So you mentioned something as far as like the journey, and you and I have talked about the hero's journey before. And for those who don't really, there you go. Yeah. For those of you who aren't real familiar with the hero's journey, I mean, there's steps to it. And I mean, you can be a good person and stay at home and do the normal things, but when you go out and you venture out into the unknown, or you venture out to accomplish a goal, you come back changed, right?
So you leave your comfort zone, and you're challenged a little bit, and you've got to step up to the plate. And then when you've done, I mean, the things that you and I have done in our life, there's been challenges, and I could honestly say, in certain occasions, there were times where I go like, I'm gonna die if I don't like suck it up and put on my big boy pants and push through this. And then you come through the other side, and you have a different perspective. And I think that this idea of struggle and challenge is important, because like I think it's like lacking in a lot of American society. I'm not going to get like all crazy, but just that idea of like there's not a lot that bothers me anymore, or gets to me, or I feel like I have to pop off about. I mean, I can pop off about things, but it's because I choose to pop off, and I enjoy a good curse-filled rant, which I will not do because you told me you're trying to keep this family friendly.
My niece might be watching. I don't want JC.
I know. Yeah, it's like nobody needs to be exposed to that.
We're not in a patrol car driving around complaining about, citizens.
The like what some people may not know is that like we have a crossover that we didn't realize till we became friends. My family moved to Alaska when I was 7, and we lived there for 9 years. Lived in Anchorage, and there was crossover because you were in the military stationed in Alaska for part of that time that I was living there. Of course, we didn't know each other,
Right.
but we have similar Alaskan wilderness experiences.
Right.
And that's true wilderness. That's not like going to a state park. That's a bear who's looking at me like I'm a ham sandwich in a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Right. Not one that's used to cars driving around.
Yes. Yeah. They're used to being left alone.
But yeah, and that's the thing. I believe that travel really broadens your mind. It really gets you out there. Speaking of travel, let's take a look here real quick. Sarah from Wales. Hey, Sarah, thanks for tuning in.
I love Wales. I want to go back and spend so much time there. As Sarah will probably get this because I'm a huge Doctor Who fan too. So I've been to Cardiff, but I want to spend a lot more time in Wales. I'll tell you, there's like Welsh women. I'm not the most beautiful on the planet.
So let's see. Delvin Blythe. He's tuning in from Livingston, Texas. We got Amanda from Early, Texas. Okay, once again, Kat Ward wins. She's signing in from Australia. Hey, Kat, thanks again.
Oh, I've seen her pop up because since I watch your show too, I've seen her pop up.
Well, she's going to be on here in the next couple of weeks. I got to get her on. I think she's been active on every show I've done. I think we got Dennis from New Braunfels.
Oh, it's a friend of mine.
Doris.
That's Doris. We went to high school together.
Really?
Yeah. Well, we have like a weird family history, but I won't go into that. But yeah. We've been together a long time.
I'll take your word for it. Let's see, nope. Jenny Frank from New Men Lake, Washington, and like I said, if you're out there, make sure that you tell us what's going on, and if you have any questions for Sean or I having to do with myth or legend, doesn't matter what, Greek, Roman, Ireland, whatever, we'll go down the rabbit hole with you, no matter what, and. Let's see. I can't believe this, but Chris Orton.
Oh my!
Is on here. Chris Orton.
I was about to say bad things.
Thanks for tuning in, Mr. Chris Orton. You and I used to eat peanut butter toast every morning for breakfast before we started on our caseload. So let's go into this hero's journey because I kind of. When I was a kid, I had a traveling spirit. I always wanted to go places, and I was always in the woods, or I was always climbing something or swimming someplace or whatever. And as soon as I was able to leave the house, I, of course, went in the military and went in the Army, and I got to get the fine citizens of the United States to pay my way to a whole bunch of different countries and see a whole bunch of different things. And it was weird because when I came back, I went back to my hometown and hung out with some of the guys that I had hung out with in high school. And things were completely different.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah, for me, everybody else was kind of the same. For me, everything had changed for me. That's part of the hero's journey, right?
Well, yeah, it's they go through a metamorphosis, and they essentially it's like they grow and mature, but they see the world a different way. And you can't, once you do that, you can't go back. You can't. I mean, whether you think that that's good or bad, it's like sometimes like you can't go back home. You could set foot there, but it's not the same anymore because you're not the same. We talk about the hero's journey, and not to like get like, all morose and dark. But I have PTSD, due to my previous career. But I was treated, and but it's something. There's memories. There's just stuff you carry with you forever, and I know, and that because of that, like there's just certain things in life I can't go back. It's like the expression. It's like you can't put your hand if it's a river, you can't put your hand in the same water twice. It's because it keeps going, and that I just can't go back. But it's like, I don't want to go back. Who wants to go back? I want to go forward. I want to keep growing. I want to get better. I want to learn new things. I want new experiences. Because at the end of the day, you can have a bunch of stuff. Who cares? Because at the end of the day, at the end of my life, I'm going to have great fracking stories to tell. And it's like, you may have a nice pair of shoes. I'm like, that's great. Let me tell you where I've been.
I'm pretty sure if you have that long lingering, decline before death,
Oh, I've already got it.
you're not going to be laying there talking about how great your lawn was that you spent, 10 hours every Sunday. I'm pretty sure that's probably not what most people are going to reflect on.
Oh, no, it's like, I don't know. I would rather like, it's like, no, I got a great drinking story at a small pub just outside Stratford-upon Avon in this little village, drinking with the locals all night, and I didn't buy a single drink. And
Right.
we had a blast.
I've done that before. I did that in Lewes. Lewis in United Kingdom. I went into a tavern and started drinking, and they heard my accent. And for the next 6 hours, they drank me right into the floor. I didn't pay for anything. It was fantastic, And those are the kind of experiences that are. You go out and you meet people that think differently than you do. And you realize how flexible the world is. There's a million different ways to do things.
Yeah. And like your way is not necessarily the right way. It might be the right way for you, but it might not be the right way for other people. And You have to, it's like, you know what? If you're not robbing, stealing, or hurting anybody, just live your life and let other people live their lives.
Right. Yeah. So in this hero's journey thing, I was kind of looking at people that travel, people that, like you said, I mean, I could have gutters on my house, right? $2,600 for gutters. Yeah. Maybe I'll go to, I don't know, Louisville, Kentucky, and go to Waverly Hills Sanatorium and walk around in the dark. And then at the end of that night, go to a bar and have some drinks and talk about how weird it was,
It's like, that's more important to me, because like the memories, I get to carry those always. And sitting on my porch in the morning, drinking my coffee, or, day drinking way too early. It's I they make me warm inside. They make me happy because I've seen things like growing up. It's like I might have seen things on TV or a movie, and then suddenly at one point in my life, I'm like, oh God, I'm standing here. I went to the castle. It's in Scotland, which. Sorry, Scottish people. I do not remember the name, but it's the castle. It's been featured in Game of Thrones, Outlander, but most importantly to me, Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail. So right. I got to be there with my wife as we said to each other, like touring the castle, going like, "Fetchy lavash, fetchy lavash."
And all the people that are working there at the castle are like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah, like we've heard that so many times.
Americans, shut up!
In the gift shop, they sell little tiny plastic cows.
Got to have one.
Fetchy lavash.
Yep. Hey, cool. Michael Reyna. Hey, Reyna, how's it going, man? He says he did the same. Military travels to Thailand, Korea, and Japan.
Oh,
good
places I want to go.
So, for those of you who don't know, you go to a place like Korea and you get the traditional drink, right? And it's soju. I'm pretty sure it's cut with formaldehyde and I don't know, some other caustic material or something. Yeah, it'll change your life. A bunch of us went to Romania. We went to Romania with Dave Schrader with Darkness Radio and the Halser Files,
Oh,
and yeah, and there was that was
see me
just
put that back.
off the charts. I mean, when you set a goal and you want to do like the hero's journey. So you start off in an ordinary world, right? And then there's some sort of call to action. Now, I know people that are working day to day right here in Texas, and they have a call to action up here, but they never act on it, or they make up excuses. And that call to action is, I want to go to Italy.
Yes.
But I'll do it later. They push it away, just like the hero's journey. That's
you have to, you have to put one foot in front of the other, metaphorically speaking, to make things happen. I said, last year we did a trip with a group of friends, fantastic people from all around the United States. We all met in Ireland, did a week in Ireland and a week in Scotland, and didn't get hotels. We were staying in like big houses, some of them sometimes ancient houses. So we were always together, breaking bread in the morning, traveling around. Yeah, and that's us at Loch Ness. Look at that motley group right there. Okay. And the cutie up front with the coins in her hands, my wife, because she wanted to offer the Loch Ness monster tree fitty, which she did.
A what?
Tree fitty. It's a joke from South Park.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'm not even going to go into it. Just watch the South Park episode about the Loch Ness monster.
Enough said.
But I mean, fantastic group of people. We were staying at that time, the house we were staying in, because the caretaker, the woman there, like she had to teach us how to pronounce the name of the house, Bruich Larik, and gorgeous house in the Highlands, surrounded by like pastures with cattle in it, and just ridiculously beautiful. And the house was, I mean, it was like 150, 200 years old, but like continual restoration. And just, you don't hear airplanes. There's no traffic. You sit out in the evenings at the fire pit, and I guess what would be the 1 acre front yard. I remember like that because we had a bottle of Ardbeg whiskey that we had brought over from Isla with us. But see, it's those memories. It's that right. Good stuff.
Well, Chandy says experiences tell some of the best stories, and I couldn't agree with her more.
And sometimes you get to bring your experiences home because like sipping the beer, but we had talked earlier, and because I'm also a booze traveler, so
nice. What is that?
This is Sean's whiskey, actually spelled the same way as my name. It is from the oldest continuous operating pub in Ireland, and think
Sean's whiskey. It's just like Sean Freddie. It's like your name.
I know. I was so thrilled. I went in there because you buy the whiskey there. I was like, well, of course I have to have whiskey from a pub that I may or may not be named after. That's not true. I'm actually named after Sean Connery, so I got that going for me.
Sarah asked, did you visit any haunted castles in Wales?
I have not, but it's going to be on my list when I go back. Like I said, I've been through Wales twice, and I did not spend the amount of time that I wanted there. It's like I want that to be its own trip, is just time in Wales, because it is a beautiful, beautiful area. And to tie in with this, there is so much myth and legend in there. And in all fairness to some of the Welsh people, I'm going to do my best to learn how to pronounce things, because your street signs were driving me crazy. It's like, you people do not use vowels.
And I've never been there. I want to go. I think I might have gone through a corner of it one time.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Yeah. So, the people sit back and say, I want to do something. And then they make up an excuse, just like the hero's journey. There's a call to action, and they go, no, I'm not going to do it.
Well, and you mentioned something like, I may need like a rain gutter, or like I might want a new TV. And a lot of my trips, because like I'm not independently wealthy, and a lot of trips I've taken with friends, where like we plan a year ahead, okay, a year from now, and then you just start saving up money.
Yep.
And it's like, do I need this, or do I want to go do this? Like, no, I'd rather go do this. And you
Right.
just and then you plan for the like for a year, you plan it out, and then when the time comes, it's thrilling. I mean, it's like time to go.
Well, there's a point in somebody's life, just like with the hero's journey, that they change. They decide, I'm going to take that leap. I'm not going to be here forever. I don't want to do my traveling in my 70s.
No.
I've seen that.
Well, I mean, I still plan on traveling in my 70s, and hopefully I'm not a broke down old man. I try to stay fit. Well, like you called me this morning. What are you doing? I'm doing my morning walk before I work out, because my wife does not deserve a broke down human being for a husband. I still got to do manly husbandly things. But no, but as I get older, there might be things that I'm not physically capable of doing and certain traveling. So it's like, I want to get that done while I can.
There's a commercial. I don't know if it's for like an investment group, like Folsom Financial or anything like that, but it's an old man, and he's down at the pyramids. It looks like in Mexico, and he's hiking up the pyramid, and he's an old man. He gets to the top and he goes, I don't know why I waited so long to do this.
Yeah. I've with several trips. So it's like, been to Stonehenge. Then a few years later, I was traveling with a group of friends, and we were going to be like kind of in the area. And my friends were like, look, we know you've been to Stonehenge, but we haven't been. Would you mind if we stopped? I'm like, no, I'm fine with that. Like, I go, it's not like Stonehenge is down the street or a state over where I can just pop over there. Yeah, and it's like, yes, I want to go again, because like this is the second time, but this might also be the last time.
Right.
And it was worth it because there had been new excavation work around the area, and they'd opened it up. So it's like, even my second time there, I got to see new things.
Yeah.
So and also like just being there, like you have that sense of awe, but also seeing the look on my friends' face, my friends' faces.
Right.
Just that shared experience.
Lynn and I have been twice. I think I've been 3 times total. For those of you who don't know, this is Frank. He had to come up here and say hello to everybody. Please say hello to Frank.
Hey, Frank.
And I'm going to see if he'll be quiet now. I'm going to put him back down. There we go. We'll see. We'll see how well that works. I've learned not to try to talk him out of doing whatever he wants to do.
Oh no, it's a cat. You can't.
So yeah. Lorraine says, favorite trip or place you visited and why?
I don't know if I have a favorite. I mean, everything's been wonderful. I mean, like you could take Scotland. Like you've got the lowlands, you've got the islands, you've got the highlands, and then you've got the Speyside area, which are all very different, and they all have like a different flavor. So it's like I can't even say, well, okay, any place in Scotland that's within stumbling distance to a distillery, I'm good.
Okay. Besides that, hold on. All right, so we're gonna reform this question. Death comes to you and says, you got 30 minutes. Where do you want to go? I can take you any place in the world.
Scottish Highlands.
And why? Why? What spoke to you? What changed the way you think or feel there?
It feels ancient, and it's absolutely beautiful. And this is coming from somebody who was raised in Alaska, who spent time in the mountains, like real mountains. Sorry, Scotland, you don't have real mountains, but I love your Highlands. But it was just this, I don't know, just this lovely, peaceful, let me put it this way: like the first time I was in Scotland, obviously traveling with a group of people, and that day I was driving, and as we got up into the Highlands, I just pulled over, and my friends were like, "What are you doing? What?" I go, "Get out of the car." They're like, "What?" I go, "Just get out of the car." And we were at the edge of the road, and it dropped off into this swept down to this gorgeous valley with this little farmhouse, and everything was just a dot. It was so far off, and there are mountains, coming up and just rocky and green and lush, with just a little hint of fog. And when my friends got out and like came to stand beside me to see what I was looking at, they were like, "Oh, okay, we get it. We're good. We can hang out here for a while." And I was like, "We just have to stop and take this in."
Right. So Sarah brings up a good question or a good thought. Do you think Stonehenge is mystical or just a landmark? Does it have a certain feeling there?
Well, I mean, to me, it has a feeling because, it's Paleolithic. It's ancient. It's thousands of years old, and it's endured. And I mean, and there's still ongoing, people much smarter than I am, with usually a doctorate in front of their name instead of a "Hey, you" in front of their name, which is me. uh, you know, they're constantly uncovering new things around there. I mean, like, what's so like, it is a calendar.
Right.
Like it does that. Much,
For years, they thought that that's all it was in the immediate circle, but now they're doing satellite archaeology, and it's a whole
yeah,
city.
yeah. There
It's
there
huge.
are there are. I don't want to say like they're not proper burial mounds like in the English, Irish, Scottish sense. Although there are some out there, but burial pits, like basically like a tube dug into the ground
Yep.
that they've excavated out of, and they're still working on that. Like I said, it's like I do the research, I read, I watch the documentaries, but I don't have a lab coat, and I don't retain all that much information.
You have a ton of useless information.
I have useless information that I can
Well,
call up from time to time.
it can be fairly entertaining. So, for those of you who might have just tuned in, you're watching the Detective Diaries. We're talking with Sean Freddie, extraordinaire explorer. He's a researcher. He is an extraordinaire with myths. And if you could go down and like and share this broadcast, it would help me out a whole lot. And if you have any questions for Sean and I, just write the question down in there and we will try to get to it. So,
And
yeah.
like with that previous question, I was like, I have not been to Japan yet. I want to go to Japan. I'm a fan of like Japanese history within a certain period. Actually, I was thinking about this today after you called me this morning. With the whole lockdown and everything, I've been having a lot of talks with a buddy of mine up in Seattle. He used to live here, and we're old. We met training martial arts. To old martial arts friends. He moved out to the West Coast, finished up his degrees, ended up in Seattle, and then he went old school. Like, I mean, even like more old school than the stuff we were doing. So he was training in Koryu, which is the ancient Japanese fighting style. Like, think this is what the samurai did. He actually studied with the oldest extant martial art in Japan, which I won't even like tell you because you're not even gonna like understand that. And he speaks Japanese, so he went to Japan, many times. But we both have like a love of certain parts of Japanese history, and there is a story in Japan called the 47 Ronin, or the 47 Ronin of Akko, and the Chushingura, a well-known story. It actually happened, but it's like Daniel Boone or David Crockett, where it's kind of crossed over into myth. So my friend John was in Japan a few years ago, and he made the trek, and in his words, was not an easy place to get to. So he went to the cemetery of the 47, sent me a picture of him in there, and I was looking at that picture because he knew what that meant to me, the same that it meant to him, and he knew how that would affect me. And the only thing that came to my head, sorry, PG-13, was like, "You sorry son of a bitch! How could you do that to me?"
Yeah. Well, you say kind of like studied a little bit of Japan. You studied a lot of so for those of you who are watching, I went over to Sean's place one day. I can't remember what it was for, but you had some of the most beautiful folded paper cranes I've ever seen. Just gorgeous.
Oh, my origami.
Paper, right? Origami?
Yeah, I've been doing origami since I was a kid.
Yeah, but most people who do origami like that, as much as you do, I mean, you had that big stick and these cranes are hanging off of it. And
that year, okay, that was it's what's called the Zimbazura or Zimbazuri. Sorry, Japanese people. It's where basically you undertake a task of folding 1,000 cranes. So it took me a little less than a year to fold 1,000 origami cranes.
Yeah, and then what did you do with them?
I burned them.
Now, there's a growth thing in that, right? I mean, there's a purpose behind doing that.
Well, the idea of doing it is like once you make 1,000 cranes, then you're supposed to make a wish. I don't really, I'm not really into that. Not my thing. I'm trying to be politic here. I don't believe wishes can be granted. So, yeah. But it was a great experience for me. I mean, it was because actually through my therapist with my PTSD, that was part of my therapy.
Yeah, to fold 1,000 cranes and then burn them.
And then burn them because I don't need 1,000 cranes laying around. Am I going to give 1,000 cranes to somebody? It's like, I brought you a pot roast and 1,000 cranes. Mazel tov.
They were the most. I would have been so honored if you would have given me those 1,000 cranes. It was absolutely beautiful, y'all. I can't even describe it. You had a pole and then strings that came off the pole.
I had to thread them all like a mobile. Yeah, no, they were all individually threaded in a huge bundle.
It was incredible. I sat there and looked at that and I was thinking, of all the things to do, and then just light them on fire. There's something cathartic about that, right?
I tell you what, I'm going to do it again at some point in my life, and when I'm done, I'll give them to you.
Thank you. Y'all heard him. Y'all heard him. Hey, Kat has a good question here. Do you feel there is a difference in the way Eastern cultures interpret paranormal and spiritual experiences as opposed to the way Western culture does?
It depends on the Eastern culture because, I mean, that's just like there's so much. I mean, Japan, Korea, all the areas of China, Indonesia.
Well, like a lot over there, they look at ghosts as their ancestors, and they look toward them for guidance and wisdom and
some.
Yeah,
like in Japan, you've got the concept of the yokai. Yokai is just a broad term meaning basically like any kind of bad supernatural thing. And the yokai, you have angry ghosts. You have the bakemono and the oni demons and all this stuff. In previous things that talked, the slit-faced woman, the legend of that, which all the stuff people make notes, go look all this stuff up. It's fun to read. And the split-faced woman has been in TV shows and movies, just worked its way into pop culture. But I mean, she's a yokai. And you have, but once you start looking at it, there's also so many similarities of what's, we'll take like England and Ireland, Scotland, blah, blah, where you've got like the fairy myths and the little people. Certain, Asian, like Japan, they have like if you look at the Western culture, they would be called the attitudes of the wee folk are very perverse, whereas they might help you or they might kill you and drink your blood. If you're a very old person or a very young person lost in the woods, they're going to help you. But if you're a healthy person in their prime, they're going to kill you or rip out your liver and make hot dogs out of it.
Nice.
Yeah, there is some of that also, like in some of the Japanese tales. You just never know. There's such a capricious nature about them.
Yeah. Yeah. So Kat, I think personally, I think that there is a lot of difference in 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 some of that, but all of it's in belief. All of it is in myth. And Sean, you and I have talked about myth before, and so many people, when they hear the word myth, they equate it to synonym of lie or untruth or fake.
But it's what a myth is. What a mythology. The difference between religion and mythology is believers. That's it.
That's true. Yes, that's true.
Sorry, I have to be that guy.
No, but it's faith based. But in the myth, whatever the myth is, it could be an unfactual story, but still have truth within it, right?
Some of them can have I believe, yes, some of them can have threads of truth, but I believe a lot of they're allegories, and and some of them are morality tales. When we were doing emails earlier, as you may have noticed, like in my personal email address, the word Perseus is in there. And that's specific because I chose that because Perseus was the only Greek hero that did not die a tragic death. There was no hubris in his life. Like he didn't do the stupid crap like Bellerophon or Achilles or Heracles. It's like he did his hero's journey. He did his hero stuff. Then he got to settle down and live a life and grow old.
Which is rare because usually the hero's journey, what you go through these tribulations, you have to get around these roadblocks, you have to basically accomplish your task, and then you have to go home, right?
Sometimes, yes.
Well, and a lot of times when they get home, they find out that their wife is actually their mother, or
that's a good one.
Right? You get back, you find out stuff.
Like, all right, I'm going to go full nerd on you. Hero's Journey, the Lord of the Rings saga. So you've got the hobbits setting off, and Frodo is the reluctant hero. He has to go do this because the ring was left to him. That's his burden to bear. Sam gets kind of roped into it because Gandalf's like, I'm not giving you a choice. You got to do this. And along the way, they pick up Merry and Pippin. And Merry and Pippin aren't really going to go on the journey, but they start to see some of the darkness. And they're like, well, we're not going to let Frodo and Sam go by themselves. And they get exposed to this giant greater world. They go through these adventures. And what's one of the things that bugged me, not in the movies, was that at the end of the books, the hobbits return to the Shire. And Merry and Pippin are actually taller because they spent time with the Ents and they drank the Ent wash. So they actually grew much taller than the rest of the hobbits. So they can actually ride like regular horses. But they're coming back like with gold and jewels, and they're in like this resplendent armor, and because like they're coming back, and which is like completely alien to the Shire, but they settle back in. But they like Merry and Pippin and even Sam could go on to have like lives in the Shire. They had their wealth, they could settle in, they could smoke their pipes, they could drink their ales, maybe raise some crops, start a family, and they were like thought of as outsiders, but they were still going to be respected. Actually, they had to come back and save the Shire, but I won't even go into that. But Frodo could not come back.
Frodo could not come back. No,
he couldn't. Everybody else could go back, but him.
Right.
He was too damaged. He could not.
And then it's those changes, and we're talking about something bad happening to him, these bad things. It all turned out good, but it was a bad situation that he took care of. And being a traveler, going and exploring someplace, I'm not saying that you're a hero to do that in the hero's journey, but the hero's journey is within that travel.
Yeah, it's to grow.
And I try my best not to get into too many really deep philosophical arguments with folks, just because I know it doesn't matter. There's so many different takes on whatever it is. It really doesn't matter. There's a logical trail that you can follow to figure out a good solution, but it's not just one solution. It's typically, it could be 50 good solutions.
Yeah.
So it's more important about figuring out what's going to work than just being right. And so that's something that I really have learned from my travels in the military and my travels with my wife, Lynn, and meeting all these great people.
And exactly, it's the great people, it's the locals. When you hang out with them and you learn about, if you're like in a village in Scotland and you're just like doing your thing and hanging out and you're chatting with the locals, they appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because you show an interest in like their lives. Like, right. Yeah, this may not be a giant tourist spot, but like this place is beautiful and it's really interesting and there's some cool stuff here. And then the locals turn you on to things that you didn't even know about.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to go do that.
Okay. Speaking of that, we had this big plan. We go to Ireland. We have all this big plan and everything, and we go do stuff. And the trip was fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But we went to one place that we hadn't planned on going to. And it was St. Micah's Church. And it turned out to be the most impactful thing that I experienced while I was there. And we went down into the catacomb that was underneath it.
Where was this? Well, how did I miss this?
I know it's in Dublin. That's what I'm saying. It's not on the typical tour thing. This is a church that they go, yeah, if you make a donation, you can go down here if you want to, and they open the side of the church. It's got these, like stairs that the big iron doors.
I've been to Dublin 3 times.
Yeah. I'll give you the address, but
I obviously did not. God, it's like trying to watch my language. I obviously did not meet the correct people.
And it's amazing because that's not what I was expecting. I was expecting all these other things in my head that I got to go see and do, but the most prolific thing was just the thing that was dropped into my lap.
Yeah, and you never wait. When we were in this Aberdeenshire in Scotland, and we had stopped at Doveton. Actually, we didn't stop. The rest of our friends, my wife does not drink, and we had gone to a lot of distilleries, and she needed a break. So they went to the Baldini distillery, which is like 5 minutes away from Doveton. And for those who don't know, Doveton, it's on the east coast of Scotland in Aberdeenshire. It's where the Speyside Scotch comes from. And Doveton bills itself as the single malt capital of the world. Beautiful, beautiful village. I believe the architecture is, I think it's called Georgian. Not my thing. Gorgeous. But hanging, meeting, and people are like, oh, we have a hiking trail. Like, what? Hiking trail? And they're like, well, yeah, you just go through town and go through here, which you go past a Gothic church and its graveyard before you get to the trailhead.
See?
And the trail runs along the Fiddick River. For my boozies out there, that is the same Fiddick River from Glenfiddich Scotch, which is from the region. So, but the reason they told us, look, go down the trail. We have a fairy village on our trail. Tell me more about your fairy village. There is a local man who, over I don't know how many years, he built like miniatures, and he built a fairy village in the woods off this trail, and it was the cutest freaking thing in the world to see. Yeah, but it's like me and my wife, we're gonna go on your little nature hike. in the typical Scottish weather, light rain, and but it was like worth it. I'm like, this little fairy village is adorable, and it was worth the walk.
That's not the fairy village. What is this?
That is Slains Castle, also in Aberdeenshire, Scotland. Now, that was the castle that was the inspiration for Castle Dracula for Bram Stoker when he wrote the book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, amazing. I only had like a couple of like to do things. Like the group was doing a bunch of stuff, and I was like, I'm cool to do this. I had two things. Going to Slane Castle was one of them, because I think that Bram Stoker's Dracula is it's a wonderful book, so well written. And so we went there, and it's out of the way. It's not owned by the government. It's not kept up by anybody, which is a shame. So I wish somebody. So it's not really a tourist site. There's nobody there. There's no gift shop. There's no tour guides. It is right. I mean, literally, like once you're in the castle, you look through a window. You're 10 feet away from like 100-foot cliff that drops into the North Sea.
Nice.
It's windswept. It's crazy. It's spooky, which you would love.
Yes, I would.
It's just our group that was there.
Let's see.
Amazing. Oh,
so it look like I'm looking over there? Like,
yeah. We're going to look this way. Okay. Oh, you had, who was the gentleman you had talking about the myths of Ireland before? Damien?
Damien Denver, yeah. Him and his wife, Kathy. Hello.
That's the Lia Fial on the Hill of Tara. Okay. That's the Stone of Destiny. And I touched it. It's when you touch it and you're the true king of Ireland, it's supposed to make a roaring noise. I am not the true king of Ireland, turns out.
But you did they actually let you touch it?
There's nobody there. And we went after hours. And on that particular trip, that was my second time there with a group of friends. You go through this old churchyard, and then there's a gate, and they're like, oh, because there's like this huge stone fence. Like, oh crap, the fence is shut and it's locked. We can't get in. I'm like, yeah, we can. I know how to get around this. And we got around, and it was
being the good burglary detective you used to be.
No, there's a point where the fence, the stone fence just ends, and you just walk around it. And that was an amazing day, because I mean the Hill of Tara, in stories, mythology, and truly in Irish history, it's the Mount Olympus, basically of Ireland. Mm-hmm. And one of my fond memories of that day was my friends. They had their daughter with her, and about that time she was 6, and she's like, "Why are we here? What's so special? It's a hill with grass, and why is that finger sticking up out of the ground?" And they're like, "Go talk to your Uncle Sean." And so she came up beside me, and I grabbed her hand. I go, "Let me tell you some stories, little one." So I just started telling her some of the Irish folk tales and the folklore stories. And her eyes just got huge, and it was wonderful. I mean, just to share those stories.
Right. Well, hey, Lynn chimed in. We visited Whitby, where Bram Stoker actually wrote Dracula. There's an actual bench. They say that's where he sat. And that first scene in Dracula where that ship, the Demeter, runs ashore, it's right there. It's absolutely amazing with the big, the Abbey above it.
I have to go there, and I will find that bench, and I will sit on it butt naked just to say I did it.
It's amazing. I have some reverse photographs from the Abbey, and the Abbey has this huge graveyard. And this is one of the paranormal photos I've got. It's on my website, theparanormaldetective.com. You can go up there, and one of the banners has a picture. It's got a part of an abbey on one side, or part of a small church, and then a whole bunch of tombstones. Look in the middle of the tombstones. Sean, I sat there for probably 15 or 20 minutes while people were walking through there, waiting to take the perfect shot, right? So I got my DSLR out, and I'm sitting there waiting. I'm waiting. Everybody's gone. I take a couple of photos. Good to go. We leave. A month later, I'm clearing my photos, and there is a dude in the photo. I don't know how he got there, because I was very, very.
A spiritual photo bomb?
I swear it wasn't a photo bomb. I don't know who. I don't recognize the dude. I don't know. It's weird, though. Anyway, y'all go to the website, check it out. Yeah. So Carrie's been to Woodby. Kim's been to Woodby. Look at
Oh,
that.
see, now I'm jealous of all you people because you've been
Yeah.
and we haven't, and
Yeah.
uh, my anger is growing inside of me. My disgust, my hatred.
Oh, speaking of which, speaking of anger, I was sitting here looking and where is he? Where is he? Oh, Jerry Kovar. Jerry Kovar is watching. Hey, Jerry.
Oh,
Um,
sweet Jesus.
he says that you're a ninja. I'm pretty sure that you like kill people in the dark.
I would just like to say that if I had a doll, I would show you where he touched me in my naughty bits.
You, Jerry? Oh, yeah. I guess he's touched me too. I don't know. So let's see what else. What else we got? We've talked Ireland and we've talked England. We've talked Scotland. We've talked the hero's journey. We've talked about how um, travel has made me a better person.
And it had, and I think, like, how much time do we have left?
I mean, however much better person I am, but yeah,
no, I mean, it's honestly, it has made me a better person. It's made me, I would say, like, it's made me a more open, tolerant person, a more understanding person.
yeah. And I think maybe, when religious people do that trek to whatever their religious site, that pilgrimage, I think that changes people too. I think leaving your homeland and going abroad and experiencing different things, not getting killed preferably, and then returning home,
Well, the lovely young lady, I'm assuming she's young lady. I'm 53. I think everybody's young now. Who asked the question about, like, the difference between Eastern and Western spirituality and practices? So, like, in Japan, there's a very specific thing, like in the feudal age, that dealt with the warrior class, and it was called a musha shugyo, which basically, we translate it, it means a warrior's errantry, where, like, a samurai, or more typically, it's what's called a bugeisha, or we would call them a ronin, but it's somebody who just practiced the martial arts. That was their thing. Occasionally they would align with people, but mostly it was like, I'm just going to study for study's sake. But so this samurai, they would go off to train on their own, 100 days, 200 days, whatever it took. And there are a bunch of wonderful stories that you can find related to the samurai. But it wasn't just a physical journey that they undertook in terms of their physical training. It also became a spiritual journey. There's a lovely story for one of the schools of stick fighting, Musha Shinden Ryu, where the head of the school was beaten in a duel. He went on a Musha Shugyo, a very austere existence, trained, and then in all this training, then he had a vision that he was attacked by a tiger. All he had was a stick. He poked the tiger in the stomach with the stick, and he won. And then from that, he developed a whole set of techniques for stick fighting, went back and then defeated the person that defeated him in the original duel.
Yeah, I think that's part of that growth process. I think that's part of putting yourself out there and exposing things that you're not comfortable with, maybe. No, let's see. I'm sorry. Sarah said, would you recommend traveling to visit such wonderful places in a group or alone? I say in a group.
Yeah. When you have the right group.
Yeah. The right group. You can't have somebody that wants to be too controlling of the group. You need to be tolerant. If the group wants to go to, I don't know, Hell's Kitchen and you want to go have some pizza someplace, the group needs to be able to just go, okay, all right, we'll meet you back here, whatever.
Exactly. Like the day that my wife and I spent in Dufton. The rest of our group was touring Balvenie. And we're like, just drop us in Dufton. We're going to be cool. Nobody got butthurt about that. Everything was fine. And then we met up that night in Dufton at this wonderful little place. If you're in Scotland, go to the Seven Stills in Dufton. That place is fantastic. And those people that run it are awesome. Great meal, good scotch.
Nicole asked, I think you already talked about that. Where
I want to go everywhere. There's really no place that I don't want to go. There are places that it makes me sad.
Texarkana, Texas?
there might be something interesting there.
Oh, okay, all right, just checking.
You know what?
Said something a while ago, though. You said that there was a place, like that one place said if you could only travel one more time, do it. Answer it.
You know what? If I could only do one more trip, it would have to be that trip to Japan to make my way to the graveyard of the 47, just so I could send that picture to my friend John and get him back.
There you go. Hey, man, we've been talking for an hour. This is Sean Freddie, myth extraordinaire, legend hopper, all-around cool guy. Sean, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. I'd like to do this again sometime.
I have time. I'm retired.
Since you're retired, I guess so. Thank you so much for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. Is there? I threw up. I didn't throw up, but I put the Epic Tales podcast there, and also your Facebook. If anybody wants to get in touch with Sean, you can get in touch with him there.
Oh God, I may have to change my Facebook security settings.
Yeah, the thousands of people that are going to be going. So thank you, man. I'm going to take you out, and I hope you have a good rest of your day, man.
You too. Be safe.
All right, brother. Thanks, man. All right. So that was Sean Freddie, personal friend of mine. Known him for about 15 years or so. Really cool guy. One of these days, we're going to have him back on, and we're going to get into his specific stuff because he has such a depth of knowledge in so many different myths and legends, and the Greek, the Roman, the Norse, the Japanese, the whole deal. So thank you for tuning in. If you could like and share this broadcast, it would be really cool. And if you have any comments, please put them down there. If you have any questions for us that you didn't ask during the broadcast, you can ask it there, and Sean and I will go in and answer them in the comment feed. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see everybody soon after this COVID thing. Thank you, guys.